it's very important to know your costs, and also it's important to be able to play with the numbers and see if maybe there's a different ingredient that you can change that keeps the quality of the food of the item, but then the cost is lower.
Right.
And that's the most, like here, like we see like the rule of law, you have food cost, bev cost, labor cost, and then the rest. It's in, the controllables will be labor cost, bev cost, sometimes food cost. But right now, bev cost and food costs are changing so bad, like with the different tariffs.
Welcome to another episode of WISKing It All. We're joined today by Edelmira Delgado, F&B Director at the Paris Hotel. Edelmira has more than 15 years of food and beverage experience, beginning while she was earning a bachelor's degree in business administration and international business at Youngstown State University. Her resume also includes F&B management roles at major hotel brands, including Hilton, Hyatt, as well as some really cool boutique hotels that we'll talk about. Without further ado, I want to welcome Edelmira to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Excited to chat about your experience and your journey. I'm always curious to understand how and why people got into the space in the first place. So maybe a good place to kick off is just what drew you to hospitality?
I think honestly, it was like I was never able to stay in one place and like just being tied down to one specific office or just, like being behind a desk 24/7. That wasn't me at all. I also say that when I started in hospitality, it was my way of like doing something else. Like I kind of like any other college student, I had like quite a few part-time jobs going on at the same time.
Right.
Somehow, somewhere, everything was hospitality, restaurant, hotel, front desk, housekeeping, everything was hotel. So by the time I had graduated and I was looking for something else, I had my thing was like, what can I do? I had the degree in business, international. I always wanted to travel, always wanted to do something different. So when I got my opportunity in my first job, which was like as an assistant outlets manager, I went for it. I tried it and I loved it. I love the fact that long hours. I like the fact of like I got to talk to people, talk to a team. Like I love being in the whole team industry, like team, like talk, like it was so many different kind of people. When I started working, nice. I was also like considered like a very green manager, very shy, very green. I was young and like my servers, some of my servers had like 20 plus years in the industry. My bartenders, like one of my top bartenders, like she had been working in the same hotel for about like 25 years.
Wow.
So I had to earn their respect and kind of like I learned from them. And they were kind of like, I feel like that my first property is a property that told me like, hey, this is what you want to do. And that's one of the main reasons I stayed.
That's really cool. And you've worked with, like I said earlier, global hotel brands all the way to the boutique resorts. And I'm also curious, how did those different environments maybe shape, the type of leader you are today?
I feel that my first boutique hotel, it was Oakland Beach. I love that. That resort was amazing. 5-star resort. It was the culture there out of this world. My F&B director at that point, he was an amazing mentor and teacher. And I think I learned so much from him that, and the rest of the team there. So it was the difference with being in a Hyatt, that it was very structured, which right. I believe that as a food and beverage or even hospitality manager, starting with a brand like Hyatt, Hilton, and Marriott, that kind of like gives you the sense of this is the general profile for a guest. This is what you have to do. This is what you need to do. It kind of like helped me out that when I went to PGA National, which was the big golf resort, I already knew the expectations as a food and beverage manager, but then I got to play more with the operation itself. But when I went to O was the culture of O and how their team members were treated, and the beverage, everything. It was another level. And that kind of made me love like the boutique hotels. It was like it was a nice love and understanding for it, and also because they were able to create their own culture. They were not standards that they had to follow.
Got it.
So, which was the beauty of it, because like you have like Hilton, especially Marriott, like it's there all the time, but it was different. So that's why I'm always a sucker for a good boutique hotel.
That's
It's
awesome.
kind of like my passion and my weakness, because I could be very set on like an Marriott property, and then they're like, hey, this is going on. I'm like, okay, let's try it.
That's right. That's awesome. And you touched upon the idea of, having a mentor. I think, for any industry, really, having a mentor, I think, is just like generally a good life hack, right? Like find someone who's done what you want to do and can kind of guide you. But I'm curious to just touch on that a little bit, because we have a lot of, hospitality professionals tuned in, and a lot of hotel operators or F&B managers or directors. And so what advice would you give them? Because you quickly touched on the idea of a mentor. And so I'd love for you to maybe expand on that idea.
I always think I think like you learn something from every property, but I will always say that my biggest mentors were the ones that they were very early on my career. First, the ones who gave me my first opportunity, the ones that they saw and they were like, hey, this is a very young girl who is almost zero F&B experience. Let's give her the chance. And that's what I consider my first, like on my first property.
Yes.
And I was like, I want to be like her. I want to be on her position. I want to learn from her. I want to get to be her. And I always, like, the few months that we spent together, on that property, I was like, that's how I want to be. But I also took very important lessons from all of my properties, but the ones that really defined me was like my first property, Hyatt, my F&B director, my F&B manager. If it wouldn't have been because she gave me the first opportunity and I was like, this is it. She's my role model for the near future, forever and always. Or like my manager who showed me how I can be better, or like that I wouldn't be where I am, because when I moved from Pittsburgh to Florida, it's a whole different culture. The hotel hospitality in Florida, it's a different beast. I feel like if you go like the north, it's like our standards are there. It's more passive, all that. But Florida, you have everyone here. And the properties where I ended up working at, it was like, this is it. This is there. Like, I was like, I learned so much in my first few months at PGA. Then it built me up for next. So I think I took very important lessons from different people, and I took them as mentors, and they were people that I will go in and I could even like text. Like I have my F&B director from PGA. Anytime I do, like, I'm looking for an opportunity, or like, I'm like, they're offering me something, I was like, hey, and he's like, he still mentors me to this point. And he's like, no, do it this way. Awesome. I believe you should. And those are the friendships that we move on. But at the same time, it's there. They will always be there for me, and I will always be there for them, because we build that rapport.
Right. I love that. And I always think there's a lot to learn from, challenges. And, I'd love to maybe touch on some of your early challenges. So when you think about, looking back, what was maybe one challenge early on in your career that helped you prepare for this, director level role?
I feel it's when I just moved here. Like I said, like it's a cultural shock, because I was a food and beverage manager back north, Pittsburgh,
right.
Super at a Hyatt, and it's so based in a standard that I knew the expectations, I knew everything. So moving here, my first job, I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is the team in up north is different than the team here in Florida. So getting to learn their perspective and kind of like taking ownership and learn a different operation. It's not different, but the culture changed between Pennsylvania, North, and then you have Florida. It's a whole different thing. So I feel like I took it, I got used to it, I learned it, and that's why I stay in Florida. Like if I will ever go back, I know the culture over there up north, but I get to learn a lot from our culture and like all standards on the people here in Florida.
I love that, and I'd love to kind of get a sense of a day in the life, right? So, why don't we just switch gears? I want to talk a bit about your current role, and so you're at the Perry Hotel in Naples, Florida, of course. Looks like a beautiful hotel. I've never been, but it looks beautiful. So, I'd love to kind of hear from you. What does leading food and beverage ops look like behind the scenes? For you?
I feel it's the funniest thing ever because I'm never doing something that I'm expected to do. Like I could have my plan mapped out and then somehow there's 20 things happening and then I'm like, okay, did I do something that it was on my to-do list? Yes, maybe 2 or 3. But at the same time, I tackle something else like I'm supposed to do, or like we started looking at other things. Like right now we're looking at, we're starting a brunch menu, we're looking at brunch items. We're looking at the beverage items. Then like the holidays are coming. And I feel like F&B, not somebody who's not in F&B or who doesn't work in hospitality, they don't realize that for us to plan something for the fall, that's already been planning mode since like August, like maybe July, like Halloween. It's like, no, we should have started marketing. It had already had to start. Like we're planning a huge event for like Halloween, Dia de los Muertos. So it's kind of like we're already starting, hey, what are we going to do? What are our drinks? Like, let's move it forward. Like, we need to do this. We need to do that. Like, it's a whole planning thing. And it's just like going with the trends. What is trending right now? What kind of food, like what kind of tequilas can we use, like drums, like those things. So that's the beauty of F&B. I feel like we are in our office like maybe 20-25% of the time. But I always like, for me, like I carry my laptop with me and it's kind of like extension. I forget it. Like they're like, oh, what's in the kitchen? I'm like, okay, it's in the kitchen. No, it's in this office. It's in the hostess thing. Because like I'm carrying it with me because I would never, like if I'm in my office, how am I going to be in the operation?
Right.
So that's my personal thing. I think like I'm not, my regular days, like emails, checking, responding to, important like sales events, then operation, what is going on with the operation? Then like, okay, what kind of meetings do we have to schedule? What kind of plans? What are my follow-ups? And then like operation, dinner, then checking what is going on like for the rest of the night, if we have any events. And then like, and always like my family always blames me for this, but like my phone is attached to my hand. So I have to respond to text messages and everything. It's just like my natural reaction. So
Right. And I mean, I'd love to get your opinion on, at Whisk, what we do is we're software. We help hotels and hospitality venues in general with what we call the boring but necessary stuff. So a lot of the back house stuff. So inventory and invoice management and recipe costing. And so, a good example is like, that an event you guys are planning and you're coming up with new cocktails and different tequilas. Well, just making sure they're profitable and they're to your liking, right? And so that's what we do. But I'd love to hear from you when it comes to maybe the back house stuff. So managing, perfect example, coming up with that menu and making sure these items are profitable. And how do you think through that side of the business?
We go in deep because like right now with the current levels and like the changes of pricing, it's insane how things go from one day to the other. So this property itself, they got a very good detailed software and created a bunch of different spreadsheets. So if something changes, we update it, we print in-house. And for liquors and all of that, we build out cost recipes from the get-go. Like I feel like when you are a new hotel, new restaurant, new something, like it's very important to know your costs, and also it's important to be able to play with the numbers and see if maybe there's a different ingredient that you can change that keeps the quality of the food or the item, but then the cost is lower.
Right.
And that's the most, like here, like we see, like the rule of law, you have food cost, bev cost, labor cost, and then the rest. It's in, the controllables will be labor cost, bev cost, sometimes food cost. But right now, bev cost and food cost are changing so bad. Like with the different tariffs, that like they're different. Like I get emails and texts, hey, I don't have this tequila right now, I will get it next week. Or hey, you need to, the price of the coffee is going up 30 or 40%. And I think I was ridiculous. At one point I was like, okay. They were like, hey, it's going up. So I'm like buying like 20 cases just in case.
Oh God.
Before it goes down. So it's kind of like, we want to keep like, for us, like if we keep increasing our prices, like we're going to lose guests, clients, revenue.
No, it makes sense. And you nailed it. It's funny because, again, not to make this about Whisk, but it's just an analogy. I always tell people like doing your costing once is reasonable and it's doable. And a lot of hotels and hospitality venues do it, and in some type of sheet, when they first start or when they kind of update their menu. But one of the most annoying parts that people sometimes forget, it's a subtle detail, but it's the maintaining. And so what I tell people is like costing out that cocktail, that old fashioned once, easy, right? Put it in, put your portions, figure it out. Costing out that hamburger, pretty easy. It's maintaining that cost when that bourbon is changing price or that vermouth is changing or whatever ingredients changing price, even more so on food because, there's so many other ingredients in one single dish. But that's the part that's hard, is maintaining that week to week when prices are changing. And it's one of the things that we've seen clients with software leverage really well. Why? Because sometimes, or a lot of the times in hospitality, it's these little things that make a big difference, right? It's that 40 cents less you're making on that margarita because tequila price increase, whatever it may be, right? I'm giving a simple example, but that 40 cents, you start looking at the numbers, you're like, wait, we sell on average 1,000 of these a week. Oops, that's like $400 a week, right? Like, so you start looking at the math and you're like, okay, great. That's $400 a week. That's $1,600 a month. If I don't do anything at the end of the year, that's, $18,000 less just because I didn't realize the cost went up. And it's that times 1,000 because you have so many different menu items and so many ingredients within a menu item. And it's like, it just compounds. But I'd love to hear from your side, right? Like, key part of the business, probably not the most fun part. So I'd love to know from you, what's one part of your role that really kind of excites you most? The thing that keeps you motivated day to day.
I think it equals like creating things, creating drinks, being with a team while they create something. Because at the end of the day, everything is about being the team. The team makes it or break it. Like your team is the one that they're in the front lines 24/7. They're them. So I will say they're the ones I will follow, and the ones that they will tell you they're looking for this, they're looking for that. So for me, it's that.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's a saying I'm sure you heard where it's like you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that's a perfect analogy. I always think about the hotel space. One area that's generally, quite profitable is banquets and events. But that also comes with a lot of pressure, right? I know they're not easy. I love to hear your take. Like, how do you handle or maybe balance this, right? You're already wearing many different hats. You're trying to, run a business. You got these different holidays or themes coming up. How do you go about managing, banquets and events?
Well, banquets and event, everything depends on your, I'll say, having a good relationship with your catering manager and being able to plan this from the get-go. Because at the end of the day, like if your catering manager is doing their job and they know how to sell your space and they know that you're going to be, like the exact steps to make sure that the event runs smoothly, and then you guys are on the same page, that's like events will go flawless, will be flawless. It's not an issue. Like it's having that relationship and that understanding with them.
That makes sense. And you know, on the podcast, we generally have people from all walks of life in hospitality, but hotels generally operate quite differently than, you know, just regular restaurants. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of crossover, but, you know, there is a lot of difference. And I'm curious from your point of view, I know you mainly worked in hotels, so I'm going to ask you the reverse question is, what's one practice in the hotel world that you've learned that you think maybe restaurant owners can borrow, or bar owners?
Let me tell you, like I had friends who work in standing restaurants,
Right.
and they describe how the difference between them and hotels are.
Okay.
I feel that one of the major difference between hotels and restaurants is that hotels depend on each other, like the departments.
Yes.
So you have engineering, you have front desk, you have like all of these departments are a whole team.
Yes.
And like, while you're in the restaurant, it's just you, yourself, and your, like, that's it. Like you have your general manager, your thing, but that's just that team. Like, well, I feel like one of the practices the hotel do is like we have our BO meetings for events, and that's why we communicate each other, department meetings. It's kind of like we depend on a lot of what they do, but it's kind of like it's like a circle. Whatever they start, we finish. Whatever they finish, we start. So I feel like that's the biggest thing. And also, which is kind of like, I feel like one of the main difference when you are working in a restaurant and you go to work in a hotel. Like you need to understand, hey, there is a front desk team. This is the engineering team. And they need to learn to work like that.
It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, like I've seen it in restaurants, like a lot of them will have, you know, teams, but the team might be a one person team, you know, it's like you got the bar manager, you got maybe, you know, the someone at the front of house, you got, you know, your chef or kitchen manager. But yeah, generally, the team is a lot smaller. So your point's definitely valid. When I think of hotels, I always like to think about how, guest preferences, because we see this in the restaurant space as well, but keep evolving. So I'm curious, what guest preferences have changed a lot in recent years? Like what trends are you noticing that every operator maybe should be paying attention to?
Well, I feel like it's becoming a lot with, I don't even say large parties, but I feel like a lot of the trends that I've seen, it's kind of like family style, also like tapa style. It's like food comes as it go. It's not like first course, second course, third course. That's not going away, but more of the whole tapas is happening. I have work in rooftops, so I feel like everybody's loving a good rooftop vibe. Yeah. Rooftops are there. They're never going to go away, but I think I have seen so many more, like compared to previous years when I started, like rooftops are here, and everything is about, and I know this is like the aesthetics, how everything looks. Like you can have like how everything looks on Instagram, everything. It's like, I feel like as guests, they're all going for the look.
Yes.
The look, the drink, the look.
It's true.
And it's, I feel like they will give the restaurant a chance just because of a nice Instagram picture.
Yeah.
Which is not going to say anything, because sometimes that drink is amazing and like the restaurant is one of the best. But those are some of the things that I have seen. And also right now, like in regards to food, like there is such a fusion, like the fusion of cuisines is happening so much. So I feel like those are a lot of things that are changing, and F&B keeps changing. So something that might not be, somebody might create something in the next couple of weeks, and like the next year restaurants will be opening with the same theme.
Right.
And like you haven't even thought about it, and you're like, okay, like you have the bakeries, like, oh my God, like chocolate divide, like all those things, like one little thing, one little post. And because of that post, you have so many different trends or
Yeah.
restaurants or businesses start.
No, it's true. It's amazing what sometimes one post could do with virality, right? You think about, I mean, I forget how many years ago it was now, but the ocean spray cranberry juice, right? The guy skateboarding with that ocean spray cranberry juice and went mega viral and changed his life. And these are extreme examples, but they happen quite a bit. And you're right, these trends can catch on, and people will go to a place just for a signature dish, a signature cocktail that they saw on Instagram or TikTok, or sometimes, to your point, a signature view, right? Hence the whole kind of rooftop and aesthetics and Instagrammable moments. It's no longer nice to have. It's almost a must have, right? As we kind of slowly wrap up, I always like to get a sense of, teams, leadership. And I know you touched on that, and it's really cool to hear how you acknowledge, right, like the can't do much without a good team. But I'd love to maybe touch on how do you think through maybe inspiring your team, right? It's you got to be motivated, you got to be a good leader, but part of being a good leader is inspiring others. So how do you think through that? Any tips for people listening in on how they can maybe grow and inspire their team?
I feel like as a leader, like it's kind of like I like to look at people and know that they can count on me, but also be able to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
And for them to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Because I will never say I'm perfect. I will never say I never made a mistake. Of course, I'm a girl. Sometimes I argue and I try to defend my point. But I will always be like, hey, my mistake. I will correct it. And I think that as long as the team knows that you're there for them, also that you can do the same job that they're doing, that you're not going to be asking someone, hey, can you clean this table, when basically you could do it for them. And that's how I like to inspire people. I always like to, and I always say it to my young ones.
Yeah.
If they're going to school, I'm always like, hey, school is your priority. If they have to work, and I'm like, F&B can be your life. No, hey, that's you. But if you're looking to do something, to change, to go to school, you need to focus on school. So I'm the first one who will push them to be like, hey, what are your classes? What are your tests? Because I know that when I was, at school, it was like, I had like my managers never pushed me. It was like, hey, can you work more hours? You're like, yeah, I can. But I also know that F&B is addictive. If you start as a hostess, you move to food runner or busser, you move to a server, you move to bartender. And like, F&B is addictive.
No, it's well said.
It is. It's one of those things. And also, when I feel like the friendships they made when they're working are the friendships they keep forever. They're like, hey, I was a server with this person for so long. And I will say also from my side, I feel like some of my closest friends are people that I have met in the industry.
Yeah.
Because the only ones who will understand your pain are the ones who have gone through the same.
Yeah. That's fair.
So it's kind of like, that's me. But to be a leader, I need to know that they can trust me, that they respect me, and they need to know that I respect them.
I love that. And I know a big issue in general in hospitality is turnover, right? What have you found, right? I know there's no silver bullet, but we quickly spoke about labor costs, but what have you found works best for maybe keeping people engaged and sticking around?
If you know how to build, like my last properties, this is my second opening. My first opening, I feel that how you build your team, how you look at the personalities, because everything is personality based. You cannot have two of the same, because So if having to building your team based it on the personalities that you have, based it on the guest service that you need. And then like my last property, my whole team was, I had 85% of my team from them. They never left. I kept them because they got to be family, friends, help each other out. And I will say it all the time. It's like they, even now that after I left, kind of like they all started going their different ways, but they still close, they still friends, they still. So I feel like building into those personalities and making sure that your team works as a team. If you're going to bring somebody who's new that cannot work well with a very well established team, that's, you were just hiring to hire. Also, it will shake the whole structure of the team. My current team has been here since opening. We have been adding people. So I feel like hiring the right people from the get-go, but also understanding that you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Once you have those few weeks, months to realize if a team member is an error, and you have to learn from that.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's there's another popular saying, which is, fire fast, hire slow, right? So it's like when someone's not a fit, recognize it. But no, it makes sense. I love that. And as we maybe look to the future, I always like to wrap up with kind of, futuristic thoughts and kind of advice. So maybe just quick one on the future. I'm curious, like if you had to predict, this is just totally personal, whatever you're thinking, right? But if you had to predict maybe the next big change in hotel dining and beverage programs, or just in that world in general, that F&B world in hotels, what do you think it would be? What do you think the next change coming is?
That's a great question. I honestly feel like everything is going with, there's going to be a more definite division between luxury and standard. I feel like right now we are seeing a lot of like irregular chains, like those are there, but they're becoming either more towards the standard, and you're getting more of the luxury, because when you're in the luxury style, their guests are paying for the experience. That's why you go from your regular mom and pop like sandwich that costs $10 to your $25-$30 burger with fries, because you're literally in like the top of the top, or this. I feel like that is going to keep going. The divide is going to get worse.
Yeah.
I call it worse because you should always have like a minimum level.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're not with how prices are going, how things are changing, like it's like renting right now, like in Florida, it's becoming crazy. I feel that it's wow. I feel like restaurants are closing. Those restaurants that they're not hitting it on the first year, they're all closing really fast. And I feel like that's, our season is growing, like, or off season is getting worse than what it was a few years ago. Like off season is not off season before was like, okay, it's off season. But right now, off season for a slower restaurant or a regular restaurant is tough.
Yeah.
It's hard. And because of being tough and hard, we are sacrificing the experience. We're sacrificing labor. So once the experience is not there, like that goes hand in hand. Like for other restaurants or places where, hey, you're giving more of an experience,
right,
but your plates are like twice the amount because, the labor is not that bad and the experience keeps getting better. So that is what I'm looking. I'm also seeing that a lot of like how like the trends are changing. Like so many things are being more natural. Like, which is the difference between the high end like natural juices, like fresh OJ, fresh lime juice, anything that's fresh, anything that's unique. And the trends for like making drinks unique. So it's everything right now. I see it that is going to be a big rift between like luxury and standard. And like we're all going to keep going towards the experience. Instagram moments are going to get better and better. So
Interesting. Very cool perspective. And to wrap up, I always like to end off with some advice. So we have people listening in, and so because you're an F&B director, I'd love to maybe for either aspiring or other people in the F&B space in the hotels, give them some advice. So I guess the question is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be an F&B director and is maybe already in that realm, or new to the space and thinking of getting involved in the space?
I will say there's no stupid question. Ask questions. There's no stupid question. I feel like I have learned so much by asking stupid questions, and I have also made mistakes when I didn't ask those stupid questions. I learned from that. I also will say find the people that make you better and learn from them. Whatever you can. 2 things in life will help you. And if you're really, really into F&B and hospitality, nobody's gonna make you change your mind. Like it's there. It's in your blood. One of the people that I always say, they say like, hey, when you are F&B, you bleed ketchup because that's your life. That's your blood. Like you are never going to move. You're never. And I said, I don't see myself moving out of food and beverage. I don't see myself doing something besides food and beverage because I love this specific department.
I love that. There's a quote, I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably not going to say it properly, but it's like, ask a stupid question and be a fool for a moment, and never ask the question and be a fool for a lifetime. And it's that idea of like, you're better off. People think, oh wow, what a dumb question for that 1 minute, and then people move on, right? That's the worst case versus not asking and just never growing.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, and I always like to end off with people just getting to know how to connect to you, right? Maybe people resonated, people liked your message, they're curious to learn more about you and what you do. Where's the place to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my main thing. It's my hospitality is my page. I am honestly, I always think like, I think I took the podcast just because I love talking about food and beverage. I talk too much about food and beverage, but if anybody ever needs anything, I'm there. Because I have learned, I have made mistakes. I have been in situations where, everybody will judge a face for how young you are. Hey, this is it. Like it's preconceived notions of who you are just because of your things. But I always say like, hey, anybody, I'll give advice to whoever asks for advice. And I like to share what I have seen and what I have gone through because that's how you grow.
I love that. And you mentioned your hospitality page. Is it on LinkedIn, about Maya's Hospitality, or is it Myra's Hospitality, excuse me, is on LinkedIn, or where can they find that?
It is on LinkedIn. Okay. It is under my name, Edelmira Delgado, yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put the link in this episode. These episodes will air on all podcast channels, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff, as well as YouTube. So we'll make sure to include that link. So there you have it, everyone. F&B Director at the Perry Hotel in Naples, Florida. We got Edelmira Delgado on the WISKing It All podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
That was awesome. If you want to learn more about Whisk, head to whisk.ai and book a demo.